There comes a moment in every life when the weight becomes unbearable, not because the obstacle is too large, not because the road is too steep, not because fate has singled you out for suffering, but because you have spent too long believing that the obstacle is standing against you instead of realizing it may be standing for you. Most people spend years fighting the very thing that was sent to transform them. They curse the challenge, they resent the delay, they question the struggle, they stare at the mountain in front of them and ask, why is this happening to me? Yet the people who change the world ask a different question. They ask, what is this trying to make me become? That single shift changes everything, because the greatest secret hidden inside every obstacle is this: it arrives carrying a gift wrapped in frustration, a gift wrapped in uncertainty, a gift wrapped in disappointment, and because the wrapping is ugly, most people never open it. They spend their lives trying to escape the lesson instead of extracting the power from it. Look around at the strongest people you know, the people whose presence fills a room, the people whose confidence cannot be shaken by criticism, the people whose determination seems almost supernatural. They were not born that way. They were forged. A sword does not become powerful in comfort. Steel is placed into fire. It is hammered. It is folded. It is tested. And every strike that appears destructive is actually creating strength. You are no different. The obstacle in your path may look like resistance, but resistance is the very thing that develops power. A muscle grows because it is challenged. A tree grows stronger because it faces the wind. A river becomes magnificent because it pushes through stone. Everything powerful in nature becomes powerful because something opposed it. Yet somehow, human beings convince themselves that opposition means they are on the wrong path. Nothing could be further from the truth. The obstacle is not evidence that you should stop. Many times it is evidence that you have finally arrived at the place where growth begins. Think about the person you were 5 years ago, the fears that controlled you, the limitations that defined you, the doubts that convinced you that certain dreams were impossible. You are no longer that person. And the reason is not because life became easy. The reason is because life challenged you. The storms that you once thought would break you became the very storms that built you. What you survived became part of your strength. What you overcame became part of your identity. What once made you feel weak eventually became proof that you were stronger than you imagined. Every obstacle leaves behind a gift. Every challenge leaves behind a lesson. Every setback leaves behind wisdom, but only for those willing to look deeper. The average mind sees a wall. The extraordinary mind sees a doorway hidden inside the wall. The average mind sees rejection. The extraordinary mind sees redirection. The average mind sees failure. The extraordinary mind sees feedback. The average mind sees an ending. The extraordinary mind sees preparation. This difference is not luck. It is not talent. It is perspective. And perspective has the power to transform your entire reality. Because your life does not move in the direction of your circumstances. Your life moves in the direction of your dominant thoughts. If you believe every obstacle is proof of defeat, you will experience defeat. If you believe every obstacle contains an opportunity, you will begin discovering opportunities where others see none. The obstacle has not changed. You have. And when you change, everything changes. Imagine standing before a locked door. Most people immediately focus on the lock. They complain about the lock. They become frustrated by the lock. They convince themselves that because the lock exists, the opportunity behind the door must not belong to them. But another person arrives and begins searching for the key. The same door, the same lock, the same circumstances. Different mindset. One remains trapped, the other moves forward. This is how greatness is created, not through perfect conditions, not through favorable circumstances, not through endless advantages. Greatness is created when someone decides that no obstacle will determine their destiny. History is filled with individuals who transformed adversity into advantage, not because they possessed magical abilities, not because they were chosen by destiny, but because they refused to surrender ownership of their future. They understood something most people never learn. The obstacle is never the final enemy. The final enemy is the meaning you assign to the obstacle. Two people can experience the same setback. One becomes bitter. The other becomes stronger. One gives up. The other grows. One loses faith. The other discovers purpose. The event was identical. The interpretation was different. And interpretation determines outcome. This is why belief matters so much. Not blind belief, not wishful thinking, but the deep conviction that every challenge contains something valuable. Belief gives you the courage to keep moving when evidence appears scarce. Belief allows you to continue planting seeds before the harvest is visible. Belief allows you to endure temporary darkness because you trust the dawn is coming. Without belief, obstacles become prisons. With belief, obstacles become training grounds. And make no mistake, life is always training you for something greater. The challenge you face today may be preparing you for a responsibility you cannot yet see. The frustration you feel today may be building patience that will one day save you. The setback you experience today may be teaching lessons that become invaluable tomorrow. Nothing is wasted. Every experience has potential value. Every struggle contains hidden instruction. Every obstacle carries the possibility of transformation. But transformation requires participation. You cannot simply wish your way into strength. You must engage with the challenge. You must confront the resistance. You must develop the courage to walk directly toward the thing most people spend their lives avoiding. Because on the other side of avoidance lies regret. But on the other side of courage lies growth. The obstacle is asking a question. It is asking who you are, not who you pretend to be when life is easy, not who you appear to be when everything goes according to plan. Who are you when circumstances turn against you? Who are you when nobody believes in you? Who are you when progress feels invisible? Who are you when results are delayed? Who are you when the dream costs more than expected? That is where character is revealed. That is where greatness is discovered. That is where ordinary people become extraordinary. The world celebrates victories, but victories are merely visible outcomes. Character is built long before the applause arrives. Strength is developed long before recognition appears. Discipline is forged long before success becomes obvious. The obstacle is where the invisible work happens. And invisible work always precedes visible results. A seed spends time beneath the soil before anyone sees growth. A building requires a foundation before the structure rises. A masterpiece exists in the mind before it appears on canvas. Everything significant begins unseen, and so does your transformation. Perhaps right now you feel buried. Perhaps circumstances have pressed down on you from every direction. Perhaps progress seems impossible. But remember this, a seed buried in darkness is not being punished. It is being prepared. The soil that appears to be trapping it is actually creating the conditions for growth. And one day that seed breaks through the surface. Not because the pressure disappeared, but because it became stronger than the pressure. That is your challenge. Not to wait for obstacles to disappear, not to pray for an easier path, but to become stronger than the resistance standing before you. Because the moment you do, the obstacle loses its power. And what once appeared to be your greatest disadvantage begins revealing itself as the very thing that prepared you for greatness. There is a reason the eagle flies above the storm while other creatures run from it. The eagle does not waste its energy fighting every gust of wind. It understands something profound. The very force that terrifies others can become the force that lifts it higher. When powerful winds arrive, the eagle spreads its wings and allows the resistance to create elevation. What appears dangerous becomes useful. What appears threatening becomes advantageous. And in many ways, life follows the same law. The obstacle that enters your life is often nothing more than raw energy waiting for direction. Most people direct that energy toward fear. They direct it toward worry. They direct it toward self-doubt. They direct it toward endless questions about why things are not working. Then they wonder why they feel exhausted. Because whatever you focus on expands. When you stare at the problem long enough, the problem grows larger in your mind. When you focus on possibilities, possibilities begin appearing where none seem to exist. This is not fantasy. This is not blind optimism. This is one of the most powerful laws of human achievement. Your mind acts like a magnet. Whatever occupies it consistently begins influencing your decisions, your emotions, your actions, and ultimately your results. A person who constantly thinks about limitations begins making decisions based on limitations. A person who constantly thinks about opportunities begins making decisions based on opportunities. And decisions determine direction. Direction determines destiny. That is why the greatest obstacle is rarely external. The greatest obstacle is often internal. It is the voice that whispers when nobody else is listening. The voice that says you are too late, too old, too inexperienced, too damaged, too ordinary, too far behind. That voice has stopped more dreams than any economic downturn, more ambitions than any competitor, more futures than any obstacle in the physical world. Because once a person accepts internal defeat, external defeat becomes inevitable. The battlefield of achievement has always been the mind. Long before a victory appears in reality, it must first occur in thought. Before a bridge exists, someone must imagine it. Before a company exists, someone must believe in it. Before a movement changes history, someone must envision a different future. Everything begins within, which means every obstacle eventually becomes a test of thought. Can you maintain faith when circumstances suggest otherwise? Can you maintain vision when evidence is limited? Can you maintain determination when progress feels slow? Can you continue walking when the destination remains hidden? These are not simple questions. These are the questions that separate spectators from creators. The spectators wait for certainty. The creators move despite uncertainty. The spectators demand guarantees. The creators build their own guarantees through action. The spectators watch circumstances. The creators shape circumstances. Life rewards those who move before they feel fully prepared, because readiness is often created through action rather than before it. Think about every major breakthrough in your life, every significant achievement, every meaningful transformation. There was a moment when you felt uncertain, a moment when confidence was incomplete, a moment when fear was present. Yet you moved anyway. And because you moved, growth occurred. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is movement despite fear. Strength is not the absence of challenge. Strength is persistence despite challenge. Success is not the absence of obstacles. Success is the ability to transform obstacles into stepping stones. The greatest leaders understand this principle deeply. When difficulties appear, they do not immediately ask how to escape them. They ask how to use them. How can this challenge make us better? How can this setback sharpen our skills? How can this resistance reveal weaknesses that need improvement? How can this obstacle become an advantage? Every question directs attention, and attention directs energy. The quality of your questions often determines the quality of your life. Ask disempowering questions and you receive disempowering answers. Ask empowering questions and your mind begins searching for empowering solutions. This is why your inner dialogue matters. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you are having conversations with yourself. You are telling yourself stories about who you are, stories about what is possible, stories about your future, stories about your limitations, stories about your potential. Those stories become beliefs. Those beliefs become actions. Those actions become habits. Those habits become destiny. If you continually tell yourself that obstacles are signs of defeat, your actions will reflect that belief. If you continually tell yourself that obstacles are opportunities for growth, your actions will reflect that belief instead. The difference seems small. The results become enormous. A ship crossing the ocean can alter its course by only a few degrees. At first, the change appears insignificant. Days later, the destination is entirely different. Thought works the same way. A slight shift in perspective can create a radically different future. This is why adversity has created so many remarkable people. Not because adversity is pleasant, not because struggle is enjoyable, but because challenge forces growth that comfort rarely demands. Comfort often persuades people to remain where they are. Comfort convinces them that average is acceptable. Comfort whispers that tomorrow will always be available. Then years pass, potential remains unused, dreams remain unexplored, abilities remain undeveloped, and a life that could have become extraordinary settles for ordinary. The obstacle interrupts that pattern. It forces attention, it demands adaptation, it requires growth. And while growth is uncomfortable, it is also where transformation lives. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly by remaining comfortable. The process requires dissolution. The old form must disappear before the new form emerges. Many people encounter this stage and become frightened. They mistake transition for destruction. They mistake discomfort for failure. They mistake uncertainty for danger. Yet some of the greatest transformations in life occur precisely when everything familiar begins changing. The old identity starts fading. The old limitations begin breaking apart. The old beliefs lose their power. And for a brief period, confusion appears. But confusion is often evidence that expansion is underway. The mind is stretching beyond previous boundaries. New possibilities are being considered. A larger future is trying to emerge. This is why adaptability is so important. The world changes. Industries change. Technology changes. Circumstances change. But principles remain. Those who cling rigidly to old methods often struggle when change arrives. Those who learn, adapt, and evolve discover opportunities hidden within disruption. The obstacle often appears because life is inviting you to grow into a new version of yourself. A version capable of handling greater responsibility, greater influence, greater opportunity, greater success. Yet many people attempt to achieve greater outcomes while remaining the same person. That rarely works. To receive what you have never had, you often must become what you have never been. The obstacle serves as the training ground for that evolution. It teaches patience. It teaches focus. It teaches persistence. It teaches humility. It teaches wisdom. It teaches discipline. And discipline may be one of the most valuable advantages an obstacle can create. Because discipline is the bridge between intention and accomplishment. Anyone can become excited about a dream. Anyone can feel motivated for a day. Anyone can imagine a better future. But discipline continues when emotions fluctuate. Discipline remains when enthusiasm fades. Discipline acts when excuses appear. Discipline keeps promises long after feelings change. The obstacle is often where discipline is developed. Because when circumstances become difficult, choices become meaningful. Anyone can maintain standards when life is convenient. Character reveals itself when convenience disappears. Can you continue learning when progress is slow? Can you continue working when results are delayed? Can you continue believing when others doubt? Can you continue building when success remains invisible? Those moments matter. Those moments shape identity. Those moments create momentum. And momentum is one of the most powerful forces in achievement. A train requires tremendous energy to begin moving. Once moving, maintaining motion becomes easier. Success often follows the same pattern. The beginning feels difficult. Resistance feels strong. Progress feels slow. Then something changes. Confidence grows. Skills improve. Results begin appearing. Momentum develops. What once seemed impossible begins feeling inevitable. But momentum is usually born during periods when no visible rewards exist. It is created by consistent action taken before external evidence appears. That is why so few people experience it. They stop before momentum arrives. They quit before the breakthrough. They retreat before the harvest, not realizing they may have been only inches away from transformation. The obstacle frequently guards the entrance to your next level. It stands there like a gatekeeper asking a simple question. How badly do you want what lies beyond this point? Not how much do you like the idea? Not how inspiring does the dream sound? How committed are you when commitment becomes costly? Because every meaningful achievement eventually demands a price. The price may be patience. The price may be effort. The price may be sacrifice. The price may be persistence. The obstacle exists to determine whether you are willing to pay it. And those who do discover something extraordinary, the obstacle that once seemed like an enemy slowly reveals itself as an ally. Because without it, they would never have developed the strength required for the future waiting ahead. Without it, they would never have discovered abilities hidden beneath the surface. Without it, they would never have realized how powerful they truly are. The obstacle was never sent to stop them. It was sent to reveal them. And once that realization takes hold, something remarkable happens. Fear begins losing its authority. Excuses begin losing their influence. Limitations begin losing their grip. Because the individual finally understands a truth that changes everything, the obstacle is not standing between them and their destiny. The obstacle is helping create the person capable of living that destiny. There is a hidden moment in every journey that few people recognize while it is happening. It is the moment when the obstacle stops being something outside of you and becomes something inside of you that must be conquered. At first, the challenge looks external. A lack of money, a lack of opportunity, a difficult circumstance, a disappointing result, an unexpected setback. But as time passes, a deeper battle emerges. The battle is no longer against conditions. The battle is against hesitation, against self-doubt, against fear, against the temptation to settle, against the quiet voice that suggests surrender. This is where destinies are decided, not when everything is easy, not when motivation is high, but when a person reaches the crossroads between persistence and retreat. Most people think success is built during moments of inspiration. In reality, success is often built during moments when inspiration has vanished and discipline takes over, because motivation is a visitor. Discipline becomes a resident. Motivation arrives with excitement. Discipline remains when excitement disappears. Motivation gets you started. Discipline carries you across the finish line. And the obstacle is one of the greatest teachers of discipline that life will ever provide. Every challenge forces a choice. You can complain or adapt. You can blame or learn. You can retreat or advance. You can surrender or persist. These choices seem small in the moment, yet they shape entire futures. Every great achievement is built from thousands of seemingly insignificant decisions. A decision to continue, a decision to try again, a decision to improve, a decision to believe, a decision to act. Over time, these decisions compound, and what once appeared to be ordinary effort becomes extraordinary achievement. The world often notices the outcome but misses the process. People admire the champion but overlook the years of training. They admire the success but overlook the sacrifices. They admire the confidence but overlook the battles that created it. Yet confidence itself is one of the greatest advantages born from adversity. True confidence is not created by constant victory. True confidence is created by survival. It is created when you face uncertainty and keep moving. It is created when you experience setbacks and recover. It is created when you encounter obstacles and discover that you are stronger than the obstacle. Every challenge overcome becomes evidence. Evidence that you can endure. Evidence that you can adapt. Evidence that you can grow. Evidence that you can prevail. And over time, that evidence accumulates. Eventually, you stop wondering whether you can handle difficulties. You know you can. Not because life has become easier, because you have become stronger. This is why resilience is one of the most valuable assets a person can possess. Resilience is not hardness. It is not emotional numbness. It is not pretending that difficulties do not hurt. Resilience is the ability to bend without breaking, to recover without surrendering, to continue without becoming defeated. A mighty oak tree withstands storms not because it never moves, but because it has learned how to move with the wind without losing its roots. Your roots are your values, your principles, your purpose, your vision. When those roots run deep, temporary storms lose their ability to destroy you. The obstacle may shake your branches. It may challenge your plans. It may force adjustments. But it cannot uproot a person who knows who they are and why they continue. This is where purpose becomes essential. Without purpose, obstacles feel unbearable. With purpose, obstacles become meaningful. A person carrying a clear purpose can endure challenges that would crush someone who lacks direction, because purpose transforms suffering into sacrifice. And sacrifice becomes easier when it serves something greater than yourself. The mother who works tirelessly for her children, the entrepreneur building a vision larger than profit, the artist creating despite rejection, the athlete training despite exhaustion, the leader continuing despite criticism. Purpose gives meaning to effort. Meaning gives strength to endurance, and endurance creates breakthroughs. The obstacle often forces you to clarify your purpose, because when challenges appear, superficial desires begin falling away. Only what truly matters remains. The obstacle asks you to examine your priorities, to identify what is worth fighting for, to discover what deserves your commitment. And once you find it, something changes. Your energy becomes focused. Your actions become intentional. Your mind becomes clearer, because clarity is power. A scattered mind struggles to overcome obstacles. A focused mind begins dismantling them piece by piece. Sunlight warms the earth, but concentrated sunlight can ignite fire. The difference is focus. Human potential works the same way. Most people possess more talent than they realize, more creativity than they realize, more strength than they realize, more capability than they realize. The problem is not lack of potential. The problem is often lack of concentration. Energy scattered across dozens of directions creates little impact. Energy directed toward a meaningful goal becomes unstoppable. The obstacle frequently forces concentration. It eliminates distractions. It exposes what matters. It demands attention, and in doing so, it helps create mastery. Every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once inexperienced. Every success story once contained uncertainty. The difference was not immediate perfection. The difference was continued learning. Learning is one of the most powerful ways to transform obstacles into advantages. The person who stops learning eventually becomes limited by what they already know. The person who continues learning expands what is possible. Every obstacle contains information. Every setback contains feedback. Every failure contains instruction. The question is whether you are willing to learn from it. Many people experience difficulty and become discouraged. Others experience difficulty and become educated. One repeats the same mistakes. The other evolves. One sees the obstacle as punishment. The other sees it as preparation. And preparation always creates advantage. Think of a blacksmith shaping steel. Each strike has purpose. Each impact serves a function. Each moment of pressure contributes to the final result. The steel does not understand the process while it is happening. It only experiences heat and force. Yet those conditions are creating strength. Life often works the same way. While you are inside the challenge, understanding may be limited. You may not immediately see the purpose. You may not immediately recognize the lesson. You may not immediately understand why the obstacle arrived. But time has a remarkable way of revealing what struggle was accomplishing all along. Years later, people often look back and realize that their greatest breakthroughs began with their greatest setbacks. The rejection that redirected them, the failure that educated them, the disappointment that strengthened them, the obstacle that transformed them. What seemed destructive was actually constructive. What seemed unfair was actually formative. What seemed like an ending was actually a beginning. This realization changes how you face future challenges, because once you understand that obstacles often contain hidden opportunities, fear begins losing its influence. You stop viewing difficulty as proof of defeat. You begin viewing difficulty as part of development. A mountain climber expects resistance. An athlete expects training. A builder expects effort. Likewise, a person pursuing a meaningful life should expect obstacles, not because life is against them, because growth requires them. The obstacle is not an interruption of the path. Many times the obstacle is the path. It is the process through which strength is developed. Wisdom is acquired. Character is formed. Vision is clarified. Leadership is refined. Without resistance, these qualities remain dormant. Potential remains unrealized until challenged. A diamond remains hidden until pressure reveals it. Gold remains buried until effort uncovers it. Greatness remains invisible until adversity calls it forward. And adversity has a way of revealing things you never knew existed within you. Courage you did not know you possessed. Patience you did not know you could develop. Determination you did not know was possible. Creativity you did not know was available. Faith you did not know was waiting beneath the surface. The obstacle becomes a mirror. It reflects your hidden capacities back to you, not so you can admire them, so you can use them. Because potential has little value until it becomes action. Dreams have little value until they become commitment. Vision has little value until it becomes movement. The obstacle ultimately demands action, not perfect action, not flawless action, consistent action, persistent action, purposeful action. Small actions repeated consistently create extraordinary outcomes. A single drop of water seems insignificant, yet over time, water can carve through stone, not because of force alone, because of persistence. Persistence is one of the most underestimated powers in the world. Talent may open a door. Opportunity may create a chance. But persistence often determines who remains long enough to succeed. Many people stop because progress is slower than expected. Many people quit because results are delayed. Many people abandon the dream because the obstacle appears larger than anticipated. Yet those who persist discover something remarkable. The obstacle begins shrinking as they grow. The challenge that once seemed overwhelming becomes manageable. The fear that once felt paralyzing becomes insignificant. The mountain that once appeared impossible becomes climbable. Not because the mountain changed, because they changed. And that transformation is where true advantage is born. The obstacle was never merely something to overcome. It was something designed to elevate you, to strengthen you, to sharpen you, to prepare you, to reveal capabilities that comfort could never uncover. And when you begin seeing every challenge through that lens, life itself starts to look different. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes preparation. Every difficulty becomes training. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity disguised in work clothes. That is the moment when the obstacle stops controlling your future, because you have discovered how to use it as fuel. And once adversity becomes fuel, there is very little in this world capable of stopping a person who has learned how to turn resistance into power. There comes a point in the life of every determined individual when they stop asking life for permission. They stop waiting for the perfect conditions. They stop waiting for certainty. They stop waiting for confidence to magically appear. They stop waiting for someone else to validate the dream that burns inside them. And in that moment, something powerful awakens. They realize that the obstacle was never the thing holding them back. The obstacle was simply exposing every belief that had been holding them back. Every excuse, every doubt, every fear, every limitation they had unknowingly accepted as truth. Because obstacles have a way of stripping away illusion. When pressure arrives, what is weak is revealed. When resistance appears, what is unstable becomes obvious. When difficulty emerges, the foundations of your character are tested. And that testing serves a purpose. Life is not interested in making you comfortable. Life is interested in making you capable. The river that cuts through stone is not stronger because it possesses extraordinary force. It is stronger because it possesses extraordinary persistence. Day after day, month after month, year after year, it continues moving, it continues flowing, it continues advancing. Eventually, the impossible yields to consistency. That principle governs every area of achievement. The obstacle that appears immovable today may become insignificant tomorrow if you continue growing. The challenge that overwhelms you now may eventually become the story you tell others about how you discovered your strength. The setback that feels painful today may become the very event you someday thank for changing the direction of your life, because perspective changes with growth. A child sees a staircase and feels intimidated. An adult sees the same staircase and sees a simple climb. The staircase did not change. The person did. This is the great secret hidden within personal transformation. As you expand, problems contract. As you grow stronger, obstacles grow smaller. As you become wiser, confusion loses its power. As you become more disciplined, distractions lose their influence. As you become more focused, opportunities become easier to recognize. Growth changes everything, and growth is almost always born through challenge. There is no shortcut around this law. The strongest minds are forged through adversity. The deepest wisdom is earned through experience. The most powerful confidence is built through overcoming. The greatest leaders are often those who have endured the greatest trials, not because suffering automatically creates greatness, but because greatness emerges when suffering is transformed into purpose. That transformation is your responsibility. Nobody else can do it for you. No one can think your thoughts for you. No one can build your discipline for you. No one can develop your courage for you. No one can create your future for you. The obstacle may arrive without your permission. But the response belongs entirely to you. And within that response lies extraordinary power. There are people right now who are allowing obstacles to define them. They introduce themselves through their limitations. They explain their circumstances. They describe their disadvantages. They rehearse their failures. They relive their disappointments. And little by little they become identified with the very things they were meant to overcome. Do not make that mistake. You are not your setback. You are not your disappointment. You are not your failure. You are not your circumstances. You are not the obstacle standing in front of you. You are the person standing before the obstacle. And that distinction changes everything, because obstacles do not possess creative power. You do. Obstacles do not possess imagination. You do. Obstacles do not possess vision. You do. Obstacles do not possess determination. You do. The obstacle is static. You are dynamic. The obstacle is fixed. You are capable of growth. The obstacle remains what it is. You have the ability to become more. Never underestimate the power of becoming more. History belongs to people who chose growth over comfort, who chose vision over fear, who chose persistence over surrender, who chose faith over doubt, who chose action over hesitation. These individuals were not immune to obstacles. They simply refused to become smaller than them. And every day presents the same opportunity to you. Every sunrise delivers a question. Will you shrink to fit your circumstances, or will you expand beyond them? Will you allow resistance to discourage you, or will you allow resistance to develop you? Will you allow adversity to define your story, or will you use adversity to strengthen your story? The answer is revealed through action. Not someday. Today. Not when conditions improve. Now. Because transformation does not happen in the future. Transformation happens in the present moment. It happens every time you choose discipline over distraction. Every time you choose courage over comfort. Every time you choose faith over fear. Every time you choose persistence over surrender. Those choices seem small, yet they are shaping the person you are becoming. Character is built choice by choice. Strength is built decision by decision. Greatness is built action by action. And eventually those small actions accumulate into an entirely different life. One day you look back and realize you are no longer the person who once doubted, no longer the person who once hesitated, no longer the person who once felt defeated. You have become someone new, someone stronger, someone wiser, someone more capable, someone prepared, someone who understands that every obstacle carries a hidden advantage, someone who no longer fears resistance because they understand what resistance produces, someone who no longer runs from challenge because they recognize the opportunities hidden within it, someone who no longer waits for ideal conditions because they know growth happens in imperfect conditions. That is when the obstacle completes its purpose, not when it disappears. When it transforms you, because the ultimate victory is not conquering the obstacle. The ultimate victory is becoming the person the obstacle was trying to create. The obstacle entered your life carrying a lesson, a challenge, a test, an invitation, an opportunity disguised as difficulty. And whether it becomes a burden or a blessing depends entirely on what you choose to do with it. The fire can destroy, or it can forge. The pressure can crush, or it can create diamonds. The wind can oppose, or it can lift. The obstacle can stop you, or it can strengthen you. The choice has always been yours. Right now, somewhere in your life, there is a challenge demanding your attention. A mountain waiting to be climbed. A fear waiting to be confronted. A limitation waiting to be shattered. A dream waiting to be pursued. Do not curse that challenge. Do not resent that mountain. Do not fear that resistance. Lean into it. Study it. Learn from it. Use it. Allow it to develop strengths that comfort never could. Allow it to reveal abilities you have not yet discovered. Allow it to prepare you for opportunities you cannot yet see. Because one day, when the struggle has become strength and the resistance has become wisdom, you will understand something that changes your life forever. You will realize that your greatest obstacle was never sent to block your path. It was sent to build the person capable of walking it. And when that realization settles into your soul, you will no longer see obstacles as enemies. You will see them as opportunities. You will see them as teachers. You will see them as stepping stones. You will see them as catalysts. You will see them as gifts disguised as challenges. And from that day forward, every obstacle will become an invitation to rise, to grow, to expand, to evolve, to become, because the greatest advantage you will ever possess is not the absence of obstacles. It is the person you become by overcoming them. Stand tall, move forward, trust the process, embrace the challenge, and remember this truth whenever life places resistance in your path: the obstacle is not the end of your story. The obstacle is the beginning of your transformation.